Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Bev.
Hey there, Brett. We get a lot of people coming in. Yay.
So as you come in, if you would put your name and the group you're with in the chat, that would be very helpful. And welcome to you all. We'll get started shortly.
If you'd like to share your Twitter handle, I promise I won't suck you into the social media team, and I'm lying. Please share your Twitter handles.
Social media mission.
Oh, and hello to everyone else too, not just Bev.
Hi.
Hey, Brett. That's, yeah. Hey, everybody.
So
We
when the
are all over
presentation
this.
starts, we're going to need everybody to mute so that since we're recording this, we want to make sure to have a nice, clear recording for those that weren't able to join us tonight.
Yes, and if you have questions, please put them in the chat as well as we go through this, and we'll try to get to them as many as we can. We have two presentations tonight, one from Tillamook Democracy Project and the other from Protect Oregon's Progress. And then we also are hoping to have a discussion tonight on school boards and what we can do about the crisis they're facing. So we're going to try to fit all that in, but having said that, please put whatever questions you have in the chat for these speakers.
And absolutely, if you're a candidate, I mean, I'm assuming you are all going to let us know that. So be sure to put that in the chat as well.
And again, if you're a candidate, we actually have a candidate list that we're sharing out with our social media team and our followers, and we'd love to add you to it to get your messaging some more amplification.
All right, with that, we have, looks like about 38 people here. So why don't we get started? Yvette, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okie doke. Hi, everybody. So my name officially is Yvette Clark, but I prefer Eves as a general rule. I am the founder of Move Voter, which is a voter forum that we started for Tillamook County, where we list all of the local candidates and get people asking them questions. Anybody's welcome to join that if you want to sort of see how we built that in. It really has helped getting more people engaged with the voting process. And then aside from that, I worked with what was formerly Tillamook Vote Forward, became the Tillamook Democracy Project, on a campaign school last May. And we actually had a team of, I think it was about 8 people. Sandy's going to talk next, and she can tell us a little bit more about who actually was on the steering committee. And we trained candidates and helped them basically run their campaigns, and then afterward did a debrief of how they did and what worked and what didn't work and things of that nature. So we're going to share all that with you tonight. So without further ado, we have the campaign manager of one of our very successful campaigns, Sandra Johnson. Also, she was on the steering committee for the Tillamook Democracy Project, and she's going to do the first little part of this.
Thank you, Eves. Well, first of all, what we did, working closely with Bev Stein and the steering team, was to get together with some of the Tilco Dems and Tillamook Vote Forward back in January 16th of 2021. And the first major work that we had to do is to research each of the 42 special districts in Tillamook County. There wasn't a central location where we could get the information on what particular campaigns were going to be available, who was going to be running, you know.
We can't hear you, Sandra.
Sandra, we can't hear you.
I think someone clicked the mute all, so we need to invite her to be able to speak again.
Oh, shoot.
Doesn't look muted from here.
Yep. Try again, Sandra.
We
No.
still can't hear you. It-
Something's, yeah.
Nothing else works. Maybe try signing out and signing back in again.
We love it when it happens,
Yes.
right?
My whole screen is resetting everybody's pictures right now. I don't know about where you guys are, but everyone went blank and they're all coming back on.
Musical chairs.
Well, it wouldn't be Zoom without either an animal crawling up on someone's lap and showing you their behind on the camera, or some sort of thing going wrong with mute.
So I'm just thinking of Joe Biden and Putin like having little glitches during their meeting, like, you know, maybe
I would
their
suspect
dog
every
started
glitch is
barking,
Putin's.
or oops, turn your mic back on.
Would be
All right,
funny.
Sandra is rejoining now. Hopefully we'll have audio.
And we have to make her the host again so she can share her screen again.
Yes.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if the screen sharing is what messed up our sound.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. Eves, would it be possible for you to screen share?
Eves, you're
Okay.
muted.
I can, but I think yours is gonna work. But I definitely would prefer.
Well, we can try it again, but that we think that might be what caused the problem.
Okay, I vote for you, go for it. Yeah, Laura, do you
Okay.
care?
For the spin.
All right, should we begin again?
Yes.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, were you able to hear? We have some feedback here too. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay.
Someone else in
There we go.
is not on mute, and that's why you're getting feedback.
It looks like it might be Barbara. No, look, she's on mute. No,
Just muted.
okay.
Are you able to hear us now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're all set up then.
Success.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
And we're sharing, right? See our screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, all right. So what we did at the beginning is set up get the steering team set up with Bev Stein, and she met with representatives from the Tilco Dem and Tillamook Vote Forward, and basically created the steering team back with our initial meeting in January 16th of 2021. The steering team then agreed that we needed to get all the information we could about the various districts that may be having openings on the various boards and councils. So we did research on each of the 42 districts, which was a lot of work because there isn't a central location to find, well, you know, here's the boundaries for this port district, and here's the, you know, school district boundaries for Tillamook school district. So we did that research, looked at the missions for each of the districts, looked at what issues were facing those districts and their voting history. You want to click on the next one. So we created a Google Doc spreadsheet with the 42 districts to track the candidates as they filed to record the party affiliation and their background. It was quite an extensive, useful spreadsheet that we were able to, you know, look at real quickly and find out, you know, where we needed to recruit candidates for, you know, where there were openings on the various special districts. And we tried to recruit candidates who were interested in running in those particular districts where there were key openings. We reached out to community organizations to seek potential candidates with a focus on younger people, my daughter for one, and also people in the BIPOC community. We held once we had some people that were interested in running as a candidate, we held an orientation, which was called Orientation in 3 Acts, to confirm which candidates really wanted to run and to provide information on the districts that they were considering running and information for launching a campaign. The steering committee provided training and support by offering early training by the DPO and We Win. We also offered access to VAN, which is the voter information for Democrats, where we could let the candidates know, there are particular Democrats, where they were located in their particular district, and help them create phone lists and peer-to-peer texting using the Scale to Win program. We also held weekly Zoom question and answer sessions for the candidates and campaign managers and sent out regular tips. The steering team also coached the candidates for presentations to Tillamook Vote Forward, to the Tilco Dems, and at the AAUW forums. So our candidates that were running were well prepared for those presentations. Also, Tillamook Vote Forward sent out 3,500 postcards that identified the Democratic candidates that were being supported by Tillamook Vote Forward. The Tilco Dems also did some radio ads, posted on their website, and did get out the vote texting to help support the candidates that were involved in our trainings. Then the candidates also were trained, candidates and their managers were trained on using MoveVoter and Facebook. Some of us, weren't real familiar with using social media, and that was really helpful to have people like Eves give us some good training on social media. And it took a lot of people, a lot of involvement, took a village to make the program successful. There were 37 Tillamook Vote Forward members who wrote the 3,500 postcards. 21 Tilco Dems PCPs participated in some form or another in helping to get our candidates elected. We also had many volunteers working on the various campaigns, and at least 25 people with new skill were trained in new skills in the campaigning. So it was really great for the community in being able to get a lot of people trained in campaigning and getting good candidates to run and to be successful. Back to you, Eves.
Yeah, there were a lot of people involved, and we were like learning as we went, and different people joined in as time went on, and what strategies we were going to adopt. We sort of were figuring out along the way. So it's interesting what worked and what we could actually probably do even better now that we've got a little training and knowing what did and didn't work. But yeah, it did take a lot of people, and we learned so much. Okay, so at the end of the day, we had 8 candidates sign up, 1 backed out, and so we ended up having 7 candidates. We're pretty active in the campaign school. And so what we did after the campaign was over, is we sent out a pretty extensive survey monkey. I think it was 6 surveys with 10 to 12 questions each on all the different aspects of their campaign, what they did, and then really tried to discern what worked and what didn't work. And so that's what I'm going to share with you guys right now, hopefully. Okay, can everyone see a campaign strategy debrief? and not a
Yes.
bunch of not a bunch of dropping menus. Okay, so this was for Tillamook County only. So there were 20,603 votes available. Those are registered voters. We got 32%. What was great and very noticeable was that this was a huge increase from a normal special district effort. Special districts in Tillamook County for the last 20 years really only get about 25% voter turnout. So clearly the efforts of the candidates and the campaign school and the postcards and the radio, I mean, these are all things that have never been done for special district seats. So we really feel that those had a positive effect on voter turnout overall, that's my personal goal. So that was fantastic. And at the end of the day, our so the big question oftentimes, people that keeps people from running is they feel like they need money or they don't have whatever. So this is just going to be 4 stories I'm going to tell you. The first one is no recipe for success. In polling the candidates, we asked them, what did they spend? For clarity, the green things that are going to show up are campaigns that won, and the red things that show up are campaigns that were not successful in their effort. So this is what our candidates spent from $0 to $3,000. And these are the people who were successful. And then our 2 big spenders were not successful. Some did signs, the roadside signs. Again, the people who did 0 roadside signs were successful. The ones who did the most were not successful. Somewhere in the middle, they did well.
Do you mean yard signs?
Yeah, yard signs. Yard signs, and some of the yard signs were quite large, those 4x4s. But these are just those small yard signs that are, off by the road. We also did a texting campaign with, I can't remember the name of the group, we'd mentioned it earlier. But the text, again, those were kind of, each campaign decided what they wanted to do. So some texted to nobody, some texted to every single Democrat, non-affiliated voter and Republican. Some went just to Democrats and non-affiliated voters. So those were sort of mix and match. This is definitely an area that we feel has strong potential to be even more impactful later on. This is something we threw in kind of in the very last couple of weeks of the campaign. And there's lots of good information on what worked and what didn't work, and who to talk to and who not to talk to. And what's great about certainly all of these smaller campaigns is because they are not partisan campaigns, you absolutely can campaign because if you don't mention anything about it, you can still create a message that would resonate with anybody. So don't necessarily factor them out. It's a huge part of the population. So in the texting, this is what they did. So again, as you can see, the person who did the most amount of texting to everybody didn't necessarily win the seat they were after. Print advertising, so this is newspapers and a little bit online, but mostly newspaper. So again, you may be seeing a pattern here. Digital advertising. Most of our papers here, we only have one strong local print paper here, but we have a number of online sort of information type papers that you can advertise on. So again, pretty obvious pattern happening. Voter pamphlets and ads and things like that. We had a big sort of full color thing that our paper did because we didn't have a normal voter pamphlet from the county. The paper published one and you could buy an ad in that publication. And so some of our candidates did, some didn't. Some of our candidates did their own website, some didn't, where they had endorsements and various things like that. Some did Facebook pages, some didn't. hopefully the Johnson campaign will talk more. They actually did a great job with their Facebook campaign. All their social media was definitely something to look at. And then some other people just did various things. Some did the radio ads, some sent out their own postcards, some called every single voter available, every single one. Some did the huge signs, 4x4 signs. And as ever, some did absolutely nothing out of the ordinary, just what they could. So at the end of the day, you can see this is a summary of what you just saw. And you can see that needing money is not the #1 criteria. They often say that's the one thing that you really, really need, but you really don't. You're not going to win just because you got more money, and you can absolutely win with absolutely no money, which is one of our candidates spent not a dollar and made not a single effort. So these are their stories. Port of Tillamook was a pretty big race. So two sides of the same tale. We had two candidates running for two different seats. Kevin Stalker won, James Potts did not. Here's our theories as to why. They had a pool of 8,315 voters to work with. Kevin was running against Chris Sween, a pretty well-known Republican. James Potts was running against Bill Bartlett, an extremely well-known. He was former county commissioner of Tillamook County. He's been on tons of boards. He's basically famous. So these are the voter turnouts, what they got. Always interesting to me is how small the margin is. You know, just a couple hundred votes that got Kevin to win. And then you would think, because this voter pool is the exact same voter pool, but somehow Bill Bartlett ended up with 500 more votes from the same voter pool. So I find that super interesting. Again, we did research on who they were running against and how much they spent. So Kevin spent nothing, James spent roughly $750 on signage and different things like that. So the end result of that was the key to why Kevin won. Kevin announced his candidacy in several key Facebook groups: What's Up Tillamook, North County News, Rockaway Beach, and Tillamook Coast, etc., for a combined audience of over 20,000 people. He's a dominant presence on Tillamook County Road. He literally posts every day on what the traffic is, sometimes several times a day. So that has a 7,800 membership. So those people are seeing his name just constantly. James announced his candidates in fewer groups, but he did much more. He had a campaign page, and ultimately that only had 90 followers. So this was really just about reach between their two different ways of doing this. Chris was appointed as a board member. He's a forestry worker. He moved to Tillamook about 10 years ago, very low profile in the community. Bill Bartlett is a former port member. He's 8 years, was a Tillamook County commissioner. He's a certified public accountant, 3rd generation Tillamook resident, very high community profile. He received free press in January for founding the Year of Wellness program through Tillamook County Wellness. That was in the paper, front page of the paper. The article was titled "Celebrating Bill Bartlett and the Wow of Yow." So he's some, you know, the name kind of thing. So the key lesson there is know your enemy. And James, if he's going to take on someone like Bill, has to do more. And that's the only way you're going to win. He was just up against a monster. So doing a minimal effort, which is sort of kind of what he did. He did signs and he did the Facebook page, but he didn't go all out to try to overcome the deficit that was clear from the beginning. So these outcomes were not a surprise. Kevin's was a little bit of a surprise because he didn't do anything. The next was the Port of Garibaldi. So this is called the odds-on favorite. Jaime Perez won. 4,500 voters to talk to. Jaime was new to politics. He's about 30 years old, and has a good story. But John LaQuette has held this seat for quite some time. He's extremely well known. Joe Watkins is a community staple. Pretty much everybody knows who he is. And what was interesting, so Jaime just barely edged those guys out by 50 votes. They split the vote. Either one of John or Joe leaves, Jaime loses. So he actually did a few things, some photo shoots and stuff like that. But he was busy with work and things like that. So he didn't have a huge amount of effort. And the logic that the reason that we feel that he won was because they split the vote against the Republicans. And that's all there was to it. If either of them had stepped out, I think we believe they would have taken the seat. So our takeaway lesson on this is intentionally repeating the scenario is a viable strategy to win. So when you're doing your recon work, if you see two Republicans up against each other, find a candidate, because there's a good chance you can win that seat just because they're busy fighting each other. For us in Tillamook County, our voter demographic is almost 50-50. So it's just a math equation. Okay, so this was probably some of our most interesting things that went down. These attacked these two seats. One was the North County Recreation District, which recently got a huge budget for a $9 million pool. And then the school district, that was a massive, the whole school district fight was just huge down here. These two candidates spent the most of all of our candidates. Each one, these are the two $3,000 candidates. And they both were unsuccessful in their bid for these seats. And the reason was they were quite attacked. So this is really about local politics and how all that plays in, the rumor mill and how all that plays in. So the voter pool for Constance, the North County Recreation District, if you guys are familiar with our area, is up Nehalem, Manzanita, right up in that area. It's very liberal area, and it's small comparatively. She was running against Jack Bloom, who was the chair of the current board. She got 474 votes out of 808, and he got 808 out of the total of 1282. Again, the voter turnout 39%. I don't know if you noticed on the other ones. This is surprisingly high compared to those other races. And their efforts, both of these candidates were very aggressive in all of their efforts. Andrea was one who made a phone call to every single potential voter. So she was down in South County, where there's 9,000 voters, and it's the completely opposite demographic. It's very Republican, very conservative. Definitely, like, it's just exactly what you imagine. That sort of with the guns and the trucks and the whole thing. So that's who she was up against. Very completely different than who Constance was up against. And what was interesting about this race was these are the past from 2013 on. As you can see, the voter turnout for these particular races is way down here in this 20% margin. And then all of a sudden it spiked for these particular races. And these turnouts are higher than any of the other races. So in these alone, it was higher than all across the board. So the way they did it, originally, Constance was not seen as a threat at all because Jack was the incumbent. He was the chair of the board. And so they started, he didn't know, he was not doing any campaigning. He did no signs. We actually invited him. He's a Democrat. He was invited to be part of the campaign school. He declined. He laughed it off. He did several things along those lines of, it shouldn't even be a campaign. He would say things like that. But then these rumors started, and the rumors were basically voting for Constance means you're not going to get your $9 million pool. And personal letters from the former executive director of the NCRD to the paper, to whomever, saying exactly that. Jack's the man that can deliver your pool. Constance obviously that's not true, but people believed it. And then there was a secondary aspect of it, which was basically them trying to say that Constance was trying to make Jack look bad, trying to make him not look like he wasn't a Democrat, which was a really interesting tactic too. So all kinds of different rumors started circulating, and that's just how that went down. It was really interesting. People were calling me and saying, what's the deal here, you know? And that was going on in the last, probably I'd say 4 weeks of the campaign. And then same with Andrea. She's very involved in school boards. She's very involved in all of that. She's been on numerous committees for the school, for the college. She's been doing this for literally like 40 years. She's an excellent candidate. Was not viewed as a threat until all her signs and things like that started showing up. And then we started seeing all these basically just negative attack after negative attack. One of the things we have is a Facebook page down here called True Tillamook, which is highly conservative. They literally started the page so that they could be as vocal about being Trump supporters as possible, and nobody would stop them. And it's just the epitome of they're just all on this page, and they went crazy with all the things that Andrea was going to turn their kids gay, and she was going to do all these different things. So that just went rampant through that particular portion of the community. And she's not on that page because it really is just kind of for a special group of people. I'm on it because I like to monitor the special group of people. So anyway, and also they were talking about it in their churches and in their personal networks. And that was basically the message. This person can't win. But Andrea, part of her messaging was basically equality, as was Constance's, making room for everybody, et cetera, et cetera. So what happened late in the campaign was we did very late in the campaign, I'm going to say 4 weeks till before the end of the campaign, everything that the opposition was doing, which was very little, switched. So overall, the NCRD candidates were not campaigning. There was another, sorry, still have these from the two other candidates that ran that weren't part of this, our campaign school. In late April, there's a AAUW forum, and that launched one of the other NCRD candidates' campaigns, that's Cooper Smith. Within his opponent, Frankie Knight, and Jack Bloom paired up, and they started running together. They started doing everything together. And they hadn't been doing anything, but now suddenly their signs were appearing together. They were sharing endorsements in community letters and different things like that. So suddenly they were a team, and that had a huge impact on her campaign. School District number 9 did the same thing. Originally, they were totally campaigning solo, and then suddenly ads, full page ads on the back of the paper with all 4 of them together saying, vote for all of us. We've got, we're going to keep things away. We're going to maintain things, hometown folks, all these kinds of things. So they just suddenly, both of those camps were running as slates when originally they weren't doing that at all. The rumor mill definitely, I think, had the biggest impact. Constance, community leaders were swayed. People who normally would have absolutely been for her messaging switched and thought she's putting our pool at risk. And so their endorsements started coming out saying, let's go with trusted leadership. Jack's been on the board for a long time, things like that. So suddenly the community leaders were definitely endorsing Jack. Not sure what that other note's about. Sorry, oops. Whoops. Okay, so what was super interesting about Andrea's campaign, we were able to get district by district data from the DPO on who voted. And just south of Tillamook are these three districts: Maple Leaf Precinct, South Prairie, and Carnahan. These three districts alone, as you can see, the averages are roughly 20 to 30%. The Democrats fall right into those averages. And historically, I went back 15 years, historically also fell right into those averages. Historically, the Republicans did as well. They split that 50-50 just by a few votes for the last 15 years. And then suddenly, as you can see, they've nearly doubled their numbers. So with that doubling of numbers, that is roughly the margin by which those candidates won. So just by targeting those three districts, they up the voter out turn. This is a voter turnout upping, as well as how they were voting. So the end result, Constance actually was able to make some changes in her messaging and her campaign. And what's interesting, even though on the other team that was running for similar seats, Knight versus Cooper Smith, Knight and Bloom should have had exactly the same numbers, but because of Constance's efforts, she was able to start to pull her campaign up out of this, and she ended up getting, as you can see, a couple hundred more than Cooper Smith. And if the campaign had gone on for a couple more weeks, it's very likely that she could have overtaken, because she made some adjustments, which was really important. It just didn't happen soon enough. And then there was sort of just, it's rough, people get invested in the campaign, things like that. But it was clear that it was working, because otherwise when people run on a slate, the numbers are almost identical. And as you can see, that's exactly what happened with Andrea. Andrea continued just doing the same campaign that she was doing, which was trying to reach every voter, talking about equality, talking about, all the important issues. She just stayed on with her message, and she did not make any adjustments. So when the slate came out, advertising together, as you can see, they won with almost exactly the same numbers, because whoever was voting for Petty was voting for everybody else on that slate. And by, that collective effort made the difference for them. It didn't do as well in the other campaign. So the takeaway here is be prepared to adapt. If this is happening to your campaign, do not just keep pressing forward. Andrea, by far, spent the most money, made the most effort, was probably the most qualified candidate we had as far as her experience, what she could bring to the board. You name it, she had it. She had it all. She had an amazing campaign manager, and was unsuccessful because she just didn't change course. So very important. And this is my favorite section. Tillamook County Transportation District, success. 2 wins in this category. So we had, this was all of the county. So we had the whole 20,000 collective to work from. Our candidates were Linda Adler, who had served on the board before, and Mary B. Johnson, who's with us tonight, who's a new candidate. I think this is her first time running for anything. They were running against 2 former board members and 2 longtime former board members. In particular, Mary was running against a very well-known community member, Republican, basically related to everybody. She knows everybody, like her grandson runs the Chamber of Commerce. Like, she's very well connected, very tough race. And then Linda and Jackie, as both were Democrats, and they're both really kind of equally weighted in their experience and what they brought to the table. So, but at the end of the day, Linda and Mary won out. And again, you can sort of see the consistency in the number of votes where we didn't have that on the port. The same people were voting for Linda and Mary, like a sort of across the board, unless they maybe knew one of the other people. And then voter turnout for this was roughly what it has been historically. Both of these candidates had a moderate to average spend, and all of their stuff was really more in the efforts that they made. So the logic, or what we believed happened here, was up in North County, which I mentioned earlier. This is where people are a bit more liberal minded, definitely very community oriented. It's just sort of a different, there's higher income, more liberal minded people. But there's around about 4,000 of them. Mid-County sort of is a mix. That's Rockaway. If you guys are familiar with our county, that's the sort of the Rockaway area. It's about 5,000 people through there. And then South County, huge, 11,000 people down there, much more conservative, whole different mindset. The Adler campaign had sort of an appearance of there was no competition. And that's because her opponent put all of her signage in North End, Mid-County, which is where she lives. And so it hit and then Linda put all of her signage in South County. And both of them appeared like they were the only ones in the campaign to the average person. Linda had a bigger group of people, and then she also kind of filtered up into the Rockaway area, so she actually probably had a bigger set of people that were getting her messages. So similar campaigns, they almost did exactly the same campaign. They had similar amount of signage, they spent a similar amount of money, they did a similar bit of social media. And the bigger difference was Adler did a bit of social media and some videos, which I think were very effective. Edwards sent postcards, again, only to these North and Mid-County people. So she was hitting the same people. And so at the end of the day, it was really kind of all about voter turnout. There was more people available to vote for Linda than were available to vote or had the awareness and the ability to do it. So we believe that that was just about who they hit, and that if either of them had cross-pollinated into the other area, that might have been a different outcome. So the other campaign, the Johnson-Kell campaign, this was a huge, they were not evenly matched at all. But Chris Kell campaigned in South County. She's extremely well connected down there. Mary Johnson campaigned throughout the county. The campaigns vary greatly in approach. Chris Kell did quite a bit of negative campaigning. She attacked Mary Johnson a couple times on social media and stuff like that. And Mary did a great job of not engaging in those discussions and not being part of that, kind of maintain the high road. And then, so we're assuming that Johnson took the mid and north counties and a portion of the south. So all she did, she took what in the other race, she took what sort of would logically be her constituents, the people who she knows, her friends, her family, the people that are connected to her or sort of know her or in the same mindset, but that she also took a bit, and all she had to do was take a little bit of Chris Kell's audience, which she was able to do. And she only pulled about those 200 votes, and it was enough to take the overall race. Again, this is why I'm really glad this particular campaign's with us, because they did the most robust campaign. Like, it had all the pieces of the puzzle: an involved candidate, a moderate spend, social media, all different pieces were put into play. They really did a great job of running a campaign, in my opinion. So the takeaway on that, my friends, is fish where the fish are. And because they're not necessarily in your backyard, they find out who's voting and make sure you campaign to them. At the end of the day, we put 4 new liberals in office, defeating 4 Republicans, and we kept two that were already part of that story. And that's that. So with that, I'm wondering if Mary McGinnis was able to join us.
I did not see that.
Okay, so Sandra, you're good to do So those were our campaigns, those were the results, and then Sandy is going to share with us basically what we learned from those campaigns really briefly. And then Mary, who's the actual candidate, is going to talk to us just a little bit about how their campaign went.
Yeah. Now, do you have the slides for what we learned from the campaign? Because I do not have those.
I emailed them to you, but I will be your slide person.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I'm gonna share my screen and then you'll have to say next slide.
And ladies, before you start, I just wanted to point out we've got about 13 minutes left of our standard meeting, and we will need to get a few announcements in there at the end. So with that in mind, if you could wrap it up in the next 10 minutes, that would be great.
Okay. I did notice that there were some questions in chat too. Are we going to address those while we are live?
Yes, if you can work those in, that would be great.
Okay.
Maybe we should just end it here, Sandy. Mary,
Okay.
what do you think?
And then go
And then
ahead.
we'll just answer their questions.
Well, if you'd like to go ahead and just talk about what you learned, that might be helpful, I think.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Sandy.
Okay, one of the questions was what course change should Andrea have made? Do you have some recommendations on that, Eves?
Oh no, we're gonna go ahead and do the slides.
Oh, the slides. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, what we learned in the recruitment and vetting is to start earlier, especially when we have a lot of new candidates and a lot of new managers. It would, be helpful to identify who those potential candidates are, to be able to raise their profile in the community and urge them to start attending board meetings. So a lot of our candidates, hadn't had the opportunity to attend the board meetings for the boards that they were running for office in. So that would have been helpful. With COVID happening too, it was a little bit more difficult for people to attend the board meetings. But if we had started earlier, that they might have had an opportunity to at least attend by Zoom. The recruitment did make a difference. People who ran otherwise would probably not have run. If you knock on people's doors and ask them to run, they tend to be more inclined to run than just from their own initiative. And now that people are more aware of the positions for the future, they're more better informed about it. And the personal approaches to potential candidates worked best. We need to do a better job of vetting candidates and deciding who to support, especially when two progressives will potentially run against each other. We need to do a better job of recruiting campaign managers. Most of us, the campaign managers, were first-time campaign managers, but the steering team really did a good job of educating them and good support. But if we do need to make sure that each candidate that we're going to support has a good campaign manager who has the time to contribute. And we also need to make sure the candidates understand what it will take to win. And I think by the time we were done with the campaign steering team organization and our training, I think all the candidates that ran had a good idea of what to do, but it would have been helpful to have known the information at the beginning of the campaigns. We had the question and answer sessions on Zoom, and the other information that provided worked well and was appreciated. That education really helped the candidates and their campaign managers. And then there was some special expertise in using Facebook, peer-to-peer texting, It was available, but it should have been done earlier. The Tillamook Vote Forward postcards worked well, but we could have done more. We also need to make sure that all campaigns have a budget, a plan, a timeline, and a better way of tracking progress. Once the campaigns did get so that they had those things in place and knew where they were heading, the focus really helped the candidates, I believe. We also need to be better prepared for negative campaigning, do opposition research to understand the opponent, and be able to message to respond. And we also need to start early with an endorsement strategy. Toward the end of the campaign that we worked on, there were some we did go after some endorsements, and they turned out to be very helpful. So had we known at the beginning we were looking for those, it really would have been helpful. And this is what we've heard from campaign managers, including myself. The campaign school was very helpful. I wouldn't have had a clue where to begin without the campaign school, guiding us every step of the way. We need to have detailed CM job descriptions and time expectations. The campaign manager's estimate, 15 hours a week. Those hours are necessary. There's a lot of work to be done, and the campaign managers need to understand that that's going to have to be contributed. We need a generic plan and timeline and a way for campaigns to share and collaborate online to reduce emails. And it would be good to have separate support meetings for campaign managers. Also, more tech help for Van and Facebook. Everybody can't access Van, but Facebook is available to everyone. And I didn't know Facebook before the campaign, and having people that were familiar with Facebook, it really helped us be able to target the audiences that we needed to target. And again, starting earlier would have been helpful for all of us.
Sandra, thank you very much.
Sure.
Just briefly, we had a few questions in chat that maybe we could answer where we are running long, but
yeah, sorry about that. Do you think we could hear just a couple of minutes from Mary Johnson real quick? She was a first-time candidate.
Sure.
She ran by far the best campaign that I saw, and she was successful. It'd just be great to know what her experience was, as going in with what worked, what was great, what helped, and then get to the questions, because she probably could answer a lot of them just by her experience.
I think that'd be great. I think that's what will answer many of the questions. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Mary. My mom, Sandy, was my campaign manager, which was amazingly helpful. And she was the one who told me about the upcoming election. It's something I wanted to get involved and participate, really never had a clue how. So this was an awesome opportunity for me. The campaign school was amazingly helpful. It gave me a lot of confidence and structure on how to do this, because we had no idea how to run a campaign, had never done anything like this before. And I was actually really new to the area. I'd only been living in Tillamook County for a few months when we started my campaign. So didn't have a lot of local connections, didn't know what I was doing. I was a fish out of water. So the campaign school cannot tell you enough how helpful it was. Bev really guided us through and brought in people who could answer our questions, improve what we were saying and how we were running our campaign, and how to pitch ourselves to an audience in Tillamook County. I also got to meet a ton of people locally who have been helpful throughout my campaign, but have been helpful afterwards as well. It's felt a really great network. We did all sorts of things since we had not done a campaign before and didn't have a strategy going into it, we touched on pretty much everything. We did road signs. I handed out pamphlets. I papered my neighborhood. I talked to people. I did the campaign school. I did Facebook. I had never had a Facebook page before. So it was all a bunch of new learning experiences, but it was all really helpful. We did do the Scale to Win texting to people. I only texted Democrats and nonpartisan, just because what my beliefs were. I did not think that Republicans would support me. So I just didn't want to spend the money on that. We also did some radio ads. We did some print ads. So we did a little bit of everything. I think Eve's touched on that we were the median when it came to what we were spending, but we had a lot of guidance from Eve's, from Bev, from everybody involved in the campaign school on how to spend our money, what to spend our money on, what I was, when I'm pitching myself and why you should elect me, really guiding you on how to sound better and how to say the exact same thing in a different way that will resonate with people. Really can't say how helpful that was. And it also just gives you some confidence, practicing the same thing over and over and over again. Had it not been for the campaign school, I wouldn't have done that. I also cannot stress enough how important it is to have your mom be your campaign manager, because that is a really hardcore job. She put in, I'm going to say, just be honest, more effort than I did. She definitely put in, I work full time. Luckily, she's retired, but she put in a ton of hours into my campaign, and did all of the back end research that we needed to find out what citizens we wanted to target, who we were getting that message out to. And when I made my first version of my campaign sign and brought it to her, she said, that looks like everybody else's, so try something else. So her opinion and time was invaluable to our campaign as well. And meeting the other, so donations was a lot of people that we met through the campaign school donated. My mom's involved with the Tillamook Democrats, and they invited me to come speak with them. A lot of them donated. People who I handed out flyers to in my neighborhood were amazingly supportive. They donated to my campaign. Other board members who thought I would be a good board member supported me, which I thought was really helpful. Like Eve mentioned, the candidate I ran against is a long time, I think she's lived here her whole life, Tillamook resident, and had a big social network and a presence online, and was not, she definitely said some things that were not super kind about me. And that's just not me. And so I wanted to run something that was authentic to myself. So I didn't go that way, and I think people noticed. And when I was being told that I sound like a politician, I could honestly say I'm definitely not, because I've never done this before. But it was just a wonderful experience, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity and the people that I got to meet and work with and learn from. I want to give a shout out to Peter, who really helped us with our tech, and Mary McGinnis, who helped us with Facebook, because without them, having a Facebook page really broadened my audience, and having that van peer-to-peer texting, I think, made a huge difference as well. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, so that's my quick little spiel.
I was just wondering, Mary or Eves, are you going to be doing this again in 2022? Is there a way that we can connect with you and ask questions if people have follow-up questions, or candidates who want to run campaigns?
I won't run again. I got elected to the transportation district, so that's a 4-year term. So I won't be running again for that position, since I'll still be serving. But I would be more than happy to answer questions and to support other people who want to get involved. One thing I would
put your information in chat.
Absolutely.
And we can distribute that, you and Sandra. And Eves, will you be running the school again?
I haven't decided. But I do know that we've talked about opening up the school statewide. So we've definitely been chatting about it. I'll follow up with Bev, and if we can, it'd be great, because it is useful statewide, and there's a lot to learn. We learned so much about what to do better. So, you know, we have all that kind of information. And one quick tip before you go is when it comes to signing up to be a candidate, wait until almost the very last day of the period with which you can do it, but make sure all your information is correct. One thing that we absolutely saw was someone at the courthouse was matching us a candidate for candidate, which was fascinating because more people ran than ever before, but only if we tried to fill the seat, then suddenly they would find a candidate. So if you can push that window to a small window and they won't be able to find it, you'll be the only one on the ballot. When you're the only one on the ballot, you're exponentially got a better chance of winning. So yeah, hopefully.
Do you have an idea why Emerge Oregon teaches their folks to file as early as possible?
They don't think strategically, maybe, about how to dupe the opponent. It doesn't help you necessarily. It just lets them know that rumor mill. For us, the rumor mill is powerful. If you're in an urban area, it's not going to be powerful. But if any of you are, you know, all the people I met earlier, Clatsop, Lane, Marion, there are strong rumor mills, and they are talking to each other, and they're talking neighbor to neighbor. They're effectively doing exactly what the PCP network is supposed to do, which is neighbor to neighbor, get these endorsements and get these people voting. They're just doing it organically. And we don't have that much media. So if you don't have that much media, same thing. It's going to be person to person. And so it's just a strategic advantage to not let them know, because they will find a candidate. They are more aggressive. Just know that they're more aggressive. They're more lockstep. They're more get in line and do what you're told than liberals will ever be. So it's just something to accept. Liberals are individuals. They're opinionated. They kind of want to do their thing their own way. And that's how the voters are. The voter base is the same way. They're harder to convince. So it's just one place to be strategic, is to not tip your hand.
Well, Eves, thank you so much. We have a lot more to hear. And we also had another group tonight, Protect Our Progress, who ran a slate of candidates. And Debbie, we'll have to have you come back. I mean, Debbie's part of our COIN leadership team. So we'll do this again, because this is very important.
I'm going to go ahead and post a summary of what I was going to say tonight in the chat, so that folks can just take that and print that out. And my email address is there, so you can let me know if you have any questions. But we had a pretty successful election this last spring too, and I just wanted to share some of what we thought worked for us.
Thank you.
So I'll put that in the chat.
Okay.
We'll make sure that those things all go in the notes. That was what Laura was just about to say. I can see it on her face. So I'm going to shut up now.
That's okay. Beverly, did you have any other announcements or?
No, I think that we wanted to have, do we have time for Kristen and Dick to make a quick federal update? And then Bonnie wanted to talk too. So if anybody, if you can stay on for a few more minutes, I know that we've got some, you know, quick or, you know, some things that we probably would like to share with everybody.
Yes, and Eves and Mary and Sandra, thank you so much for your time tonight. We may be calling on you again as we get ready for 2022.
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Recruiting and supporting candidates, man, it's nothing to take lightly. It's a lot of work.
So Kristen, Dick, if you would give us your federal update, that would be wonderful.
We will be super quick. Indivisible Oregon is doing a campaign this week to promote supporting the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. That was our theme for Indivisible Tuesday today, and for all the DAs this week, the daily actions, which help you call your members of Congress. And we will be phone banking on Saturday morning from 9 to 11. And I will put links in the chat box for that. I also mentioned at Indivisible Tuesday today that Act for Democracy has a campaign going on right now to help Afghan refugees. The request is that you buy gift cards, and I will put the information on where to send the gift cards in the chat box as well. And I will stop there.
Thank you.
Except I am going to ask if you and Dick will be filming a short video for that fundraising effort, and when should I expect it?
Whenever we get direction.
All right. Well, I'm directing you guys. You should make a little, the fundraising pitch for that project. I think that would be something that everyone on the call would want to share out too. So
absolutely. And if you guys want to know more about this, Roberta's on the call. She is the person who may be able to answer more about it than me, because she is running Act for Democracy. But I will put a couple links in the chat. And Roberta, if you would like to direct us on what to say in a video, we would be happy to have your direction.
Cool. All right, we'll have to talk about that. That's great. It's a great idea.
Awesome. So Bonnie.
Okay, sorry that I really am behind this Bonnie News sign. I don't care to have my picture on video. So at any rate, we here in Hood River County are falling in the pattern of the rest of the United States in having contentious episodes raised at school board meetings and at and around, protests outside, people yelling and screaming and ultimately threatening school board members, so that the school board meetings were moved back to online to protect people's personal safety. This is, of course, happening all over. It started out, it was the anti-maskers, then it was the anti-vaxxers, and then it was the CRT folks, and basically, and on and on and on. And basically, it's the same folks who are, just protesting about everything because they're pissed at everything. They're unhappy about everything. And, they'll say that we just want to do what we think is best for our children, which I think there might be a grain of truth in that. But of course, that doesn't require screaming and threatening and aggressive behavior. At any rate, a group of us, maybe 15 or 20 people have gotten together and said, yeah, we'd like to figure out what we might do to respond, to do something, what would be helpful. And so there are a number of parts of addressing that. First of all, what's your objective? If you just want to get rid of their dumbass ideas, well, that's not going to work, because people have dumbass ideas and they're entitled to them and they're entitled to say them. If what's really bothering you is the threatening and harassment, basically adult bullying, then do you want to try and counteract that? Because it sets a bad example. It makes a bad tone in the community, makes people unhappy and scared and all that sort of stuff. Or just exactly what is it that you want to do? That one example or one response, of course, is electoral, but that's not the problem here. And that is in places like Newburgh, where the people doing and saying dumbass stuff are on the board. That's not the case here. And in many places, we have very good people on the board. We have two, this may not be a coincidence, but we have two conservative people who were just elected to the board but that's 2 out of 7 positions. So they're not driving policy at this time. They're hoping to get, some more friends to join them. But at this point, the problem is really the rabble rousers outside. So my interest in bringing it to all of you is to ask what responses are you familiar with in this setting? Maybe things that you all have done, things that you've heard of, or maybe just if you don't have that kind of information, what are your ideas on what should be done by calm, right-thinking people who aren't really opposed to people airing their dumbass ideas. We're concerned about the threat of violence and the harassment of individual school board members.
So you just use rules of order, and you make it clear that if people are out of order, they will be escorted out of the room.
Right, and that changes their location, but not their MO.
Yeah, but they're not disrupting the meeting anymore. The
Well,
idea is to make sure you can have your meeting and get your business done.
Right. That's a good thing.
Bonnie, one thing I could point you to is we had a pandemic politics conversation a few weeks ago, and there was a school board member there from Bend, Marcus. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on his last name. LeGrand, that's it. And he talked about this quite a bit because they're kind of the same boat you are. There was nothing wrong with there was no issues with the people on the board as in Newburgh. So how did they deal with the protests? And they actually faced a lot of racial attacks, the board members themselves, from members of the community. And so he discussed in there how they handled it, and he was pretty satisfied with the support of the board and the parents, and a lot of it was one-on-one conversations. So Ariel has put the link to the YouTube to that pandemic politics conversation. It's worth a listen.
Of course she has.
It's only an hour long, and a lot of Marcus's discussion and some of the others too. There were people from healthcare who were in politics and also were on boards like county commission, county council, facing the same kinds of things. And so all of that discussion might be a good place to start.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other, and thank you, Ariel, for that link. I got it. Any other ideas?
I'm just going to say that John Nelson, our school board, one of our school board members is here. And maybe, John, do you want to say a couple things about how you guys have dealt with it?
Sure. Let me get the video on. Pardon my face, I fell on my face on a hike on Saturday, so I got stitches all over.
Oh, man.
I know. So yeah, I ran this last term. I was a school board member for North Wasco County Schools for the last 2 election cycles, so 6 years. So I was running for another, 8 years. So I'm running for another 4. I ran for another 4. And our district is divided up into zones. So each board member that's running only has to address their zone. And so you have
John?
Yes.
Excuse me for just a second. More addressing not what we were talking about before, but Bonnie's question about how you guys are handling the, this sort of civil disobedience that's going on at school board meetings.
Okay, that's what you want to hear about?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't understand.
Well, just because that's what Bonnie was asking about here right at the end.
I got it.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've had a lot of civil disobedience. The last board meeting we had, there was a packed audience. We had moved away from just having virtual meetings on Zoom to open sessions, following a lot of different protocols about masking and so forth, and seating arrangement and all of that. And so that was working until all of a sudden we kind of got a surge of people that were believed in don't get vaccinated, and COVID's no big deal, and it's cruel to mask children in school. So and the momentum kept building. It was the same group of people. They have a lot of Facebook's presence and a community on Facebook. And so at the last meeting, every seat was full. There was mostly them, 98%, that opposition group. And they brought signs and they were coordinated, and they talked meanly about school board members to our face. And though the chair tried to stop that and so forth, he was unsuccessful in doing that. And so our decision on that was to go back to virtual. So the next meeting will be, we were convening at the middle school. The board was, and then for everyone else, if you wanted to make statements and so forth, or just watch the proceedings as a public, that was all on Zoom. And board members had the option of also being on the hybrid model or on a Zoom model and not attending in person at the school. So we are going back actually to not even doing that. We're going back to everybody, all the board members will be at home and on Zoom, and that's how we'll conduct our meeting because it was totally out of control. So that's where it stands today.
Bonnie, one thing I wanted to also throw out is I had a call this week from someone from Rural Organizing Project and wanted to talk about collaborating on an approach to school boards to these issues and how we might prepare for them better in terms of our messaging. And as we've heard tonight, how we might elect people to school boards to kind of fend this off. So there are people out, potential partners out there to kind of build maybe a coalition or a collaboration that we can better respond to this. So we're not all having to just go back to Zoom to avoid these people.
Right. And as I said, that, that changes the venue. It keeps control of the meetings, but the hostility and the threats can continue, and harassment, whether outside people's homes, by their email, targeting their children in school, and so on. That there's only doing the online approach is a very sensible first move, but then there's the rest.
So we have had other moves. So we hired for the first time in over a decade a point person for communication. So that person is totally redesigning our website, is making everything much more active. She makes a report out. She counters arguments on Facebook, she's doing a lot to address that. We also have a dashboard, so we're extremely transparent about what's happening in our schools in relation to COVID. So the dashboard is updated every week, and it tells of all the cases that we have, all the quarantines we have, the teachers that have contracted COVID, the students that have, not by name, but by number.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're very transparent for the entire community, so everybody can see what's actually happening, fact-based. And we do fact-based communication about COVID to counter the absurd arguments that are being made from the other side. So we are doing other things besides. That was a first step, and we're trying to figure out where to go with this. So it'll change again, for sure.
I'd love coin social media team to be able to help you guys with that effort, and maybe have it be a template for other districts as well of something that they can do to fight back against all the misinformation while being transparent and accountable. So maybe Debbie can put us in touch and we can see what we can do there.
Yeah, and also give the address to our website so you can take a look at what our communications director is doing there. You can go online and look at it.
Okay.
Cool. I had a suggestion. I'm a speech and language pathologist, and I work for an ESD, so I'm an educator. And I think, one thing that folks in Indivisible could do is write letters to the editor telling stories about the positive things that are happening in your local school. Not necessarily about COVID, but, just about, hey, hats off to our teachers. They're working hard. Maybe your child learned to read this year, or write their name or whatever, but kind of changing the subject of the focus of what's happening in the schools to be some of the great things that are going on, because we are still showing up every day and teaching, and kids are still learning. And we're there. And I think that the teachers in your cities and communities would appreciate that, but it's also just a way to change the subject and balance that negativity about how horrible masks are, or how horrible mandatory vaccines are.
Good, thanks. And thank you, John.
Yeah.
Good to know that that we can reinforce each other from kind of next door.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere,
Yes.
so it's a very timely discussion, because it is really it's ridiculous. Is what it is. Thanks, Bonnie. So Laura, did we cover everything? I think we did.
I think so. And
we went over.
Any other announcements will be in the notes. And I think we'll plan on continuing both conversations about recruiting and supporting candidates with, we'll have other programs, and also continue talking with Bonnie and people interested in collaborating on responses to these school board issues.
I know our next meeting. December 21st, we do first and third coin meetings. And so the 21st, as anybody that knows December knows that it's really close to Christmas. So we're going to have a holiday party. We would love to have you all come back and have a nice big group. We're going to do some surprises. We have some things up our sleeve, especially Ariel has some things up her sleeve because we've been brainstorming ideas. So be prepared. There could be, costumes and prizes and drinking.
Yeah, we encourage your rum and your eggnog that night strongly. This is meant to be a time to just,
it's a COVID safe holiday party with friends. We all like each other. So
speak for yourself.
Oh, stop. We all like each other. So we're hoping that you'll all want to join us again on December 21st. And then of course, at that point, we'll have some information for coming up in January with candidates that we're going to be talking to. And, because it's going to be, into the election cycle. So we're going to be going 100 miles an hour.
And just in case anyone missed it, Devin Nunez is retiring and he's not going to be in Congress anymore. And if you needed something to smile about, I wanted to leave you with the good news in case you'd missed it.
Right.
I'd have rather have seen him get beaten next term.
I could take that a different way.
But you know that Devin Nunes is now going to be taking up one of his new social media jobs.
Yes, yeah, and just like Trump steaks and Trump.
Another failed company.
Right. We've been hearing about that. There's, as you know, a lot of smoke and no flames yet. And Heather Cox Richardson's post last night, what she had to say about it was, well, his allying as Trump's social media manager means that reflects that Nunez has very few other options.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, great. Laura, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, so thank you for coming, everyone. And we'll see you on the 21st at our holiday party. And we'll send out the notes tomorrow.
With all these great links and information to how to get a hold of each other, and we'll need to stay in touch because we do have to win.